It was genuinely heartwarming to see so many people show up and squeeze themselves into that small, cozy court. But now the Cincinnati Open organizers have a problem, and the uncomfortable part is that they may have created it themselves. Just 5 days after Alex Eala became the first Filipina in history to win a WTA singles title, defeating major names along the way and finishing off world number 4 Jessica Pegula with a third-set bagel, the momentum around her was already becoming impossible to ignore. This was supposed to be one of those magical moments in her young career. But according to reports surrounding Cincinnati's leaked order play, the tournament may have placed her on a court that could not accommodate even half the supporters she had just demonstrated she could attract in Toronto. Cincinnati's marketing team had already mentioned Eala alongside names like Aryna Sabalenka, Carlos Alcaraz, and Iga Swiatek. They presented her as one of the tournament's major attractions. But if the reported scheduling information is accurate, the scheduling department apparently failed to act on the message coming from its own marketing department. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why one word has started appearing repeatedly across Filipino tennis communities tonight: regret. If you want your prediction on record before the U.S. Open seedings and court assignments respond to whatever happens in Ohio, make sure you subscribe and leave your Cincinnati bracket in the comments. Now rewind the clock 72 hours. Rain had already pushed the Mubadala DC Open final into Monday, and Eala walked away from Washington as a champion after defeating Jessica Pegula 4-6, 6-4, 6-0, closing out the world number 4 by winning 6 consecutive games in the deciding set. Nobody inside that stadium expected the final set to end that way. Eala then had almost no time to celebrate. She had roughly 1 day between lifting her first WTA 500 trophy and getting on a flight toward Toronto. She arrived tired, but she also arrived with a fresh career-high ranking of world number 20. Her name was suddenly everywhere across tennis coverage, and the National Bank Open had already discovered something very important. People wanted to see her. The Wednesday night session featuring Eala had sold out. That was the moment tournament officials across the tour received a lesson that Cincinnati now appears to be facing themselves. Eala was scheduled to play again the following night, and the message from the tournament was simple: everybody come out and support her. But Toronto's original plan had been different. Eala was initially assigned to the Grandstand Court, a venue with approximately 2,800 seats. On paper, that was understandable for a player who had only recently climbed into the world's top 20. Then something happened that no ordinary scheduling model could fully anticipate. The tickets started moving, then they moved faster, then they kept moving. By Tuesday morning, tournament director Carl Hale was facing a problem that the original court assignment had not accounted for. A player ranked number 20 was generating demand normally associated with the biggest stars on the tour. Hale responded by moving Eala to the center court within 24 hours. Cincinnati has now had the opportunity to watch that entire sequence unfold in real time. Yet according to reported order play, the tournament still appears to have placed Eala on a secondary show court for her opening match. This is the same tournament that publicly promoted her as a headline attraction and celebrated her status as a Philippine trailblazer. If the reported assignment is accurate, it creates a strange situation of marketing a player like a superstar while scheduling her like an unknown qualifier. That is not simply a minor oversight. It looks like a scheduling department working from yesterday's information instead of today's reality. And the evidence is already sitting there. Look at what happened on Monday, August 3rd, when Eala faced Pegula in the DC Open final. Pegula took the first set 6-4. Eala responded with 6-4. And then Eala completely took over the deciding set, winning it 6-0. That scoreline cannot be dismissed as a lucky result. It was a world number for losing 6 straight games at the end of a WTA title match. And the path to that championship was just as impressive. Eala defeated Zheng Qinwen, Leylah Fernandez, Elena Svitolina, Naomi Osaka, and then the third-seeded Pegula in the final. 5 elite-level opponents in one tournament. That is no ordinary Cinderella story. It is the kind of run that changes how the entire sport views a player. Then came the commercial evidence. DC Open chairman Mark Ein described the demand surrounding Eala's Washington appearance as unprecedented, using that description on the record. Only 2 days later, the same phenomenon appeared in Canada. Carl Hale told Tennis Channel that Eala had already generated more than 2,000 additional tickets, compared with the tournament's second-largest venue, before she even struck her first ball, leading to the Wednesday night session becoming a major sellout. Tennis 365 reported that it was the first Wednesday night sellout at the Canadian Open in approximately 2 decades, with Serena Williams previously being the last player associated with such a result. Stop and think about that comparison. A young player from the Philippines was now being discussed in the same ticketing conversation as Serena Williams in her prime. For Filipino supporters who have been saying for years that Eala's popularity was something different, this was not a surprise. These are the fans who traveled to Miami, packed the stands in Washington, and helped turn Toronto's night session into something resembling a home match. The wider tennis world is not necessarily discovering Eala's popularity for the first time. It is finally catching up with what her supporters already understood. Their enthusiasm was the market signal. The tournaments are simply beginning to recognize what the crowd has been telling them. And that is exactly why Cincinnati's reported decision is so difficult to understand. This is the same tournament whose own promotional material identified Eala as a Philippine trailblazer and highlighted the passionate, energetic fans expected to support her. Cincinnati knew the story. Cincinnati marketed the story. Yet if the leaked order play is correct, the tournament may still be preparing to place her on a court that does not match the demand surrounding her. Now consider the other issues Cincinnati has faced. Roger Federer publicly criticized the tournament's court speed this season, forcing tournament president Bob Moran to respond. The event's major renovation project has also faced criticism, with Tennis Net questioning whether the improvements have solved the deeper problems surrounding the tournament. The 2025 edition also dealt with multiple notable withdrawals, including Jack Draper, Paula Badosa, Jing Qinwen, Gregor Dimitrov, and Eala herself. That creates an uncomfortable pattern of decisions and circumstances that have already attracted criticism, and a reported court assignment for one of the biggest news stories in women's tennis fits directly into that pattern. Monday, WTA 500 champion. Wednesday, a Serena-level ticketing comparison. Then the following week, reportedly placed on a secondary court. The timing alone tells the story. And if you want to understand what a tournament director sounds like when Eala's popularity forces a scheduling change, you do not have to guess. Carl Hale has already shown you. Hale has been involved with the Canadian Open for more than 2 decades and sits at the center of decisions for one of the WTA Tour's flagship 1,000-level events. He does not need to publicly justify every scheduling decision, and he certainly does not have to admit that an original court assignment was too small. But this week, he effectively did. On Tennis Channel, Hale confirmed that the 2,800-seat grandstand could not physically accommodate the demand Eala had generated, with the ticket count reportedly climbing beyond 5,000 before her opening match. So he moved her to a larger venue. That is more than a compliment. It is evidence. A rival tournament director publicly acknowledged that a smaller arena could not contain the audience Eala was attracting, while Cincinnati was reportedly preparing to place her on an outer court. The warning could not be clearer. The information was broadcast. It was transcribed. It was shared. There is no realistic way for Cincinnati to say that the Toronto situation was invisible to them. And this is where the story becomes bigger than one court assignment. The WTA is now dealing with something it has not had to manage on this scale before. The emergence of a genuine Southeast Asian tennis superstar with a fan base capable of traveling across countries and filling venues. Every tournament between Cincinnati and the Australian Open in January will eventually face the same question. Should Eala be scheduled according to her official ranking, currently around number 20, or according to the commercial demand she is already generating, a demand strong enough to produce Serena Williams comparisons in Canada? Get that calculation wrong, and the tournament itself can become the example everyone else studies. The U.S. Open main draw begins on August 24th, and Flushing Meadows will provide the biggest test yet of Eala's commercial pull. How Cincinnati handles her now could influence how organizers in New York think about her court assignments. After New York comes the Asian swing, including Wuhan and Beijing, followed by the later events of the season. Every scheduling department has an opportunity to learn from what is happening in Ohio. If Bob Moran's team recognizes a problem, and moves Eala to a larger court before the next round. Cincinnati could establish a useful template for the rest of the tour. If they refuse to adjust, the decision could become a warning for every tournament watching. The Philippines has never produced a WTA 1000 finalist. If Eala makes a deep run in Cincinnati despite beginning on a supposedly secondary court, that would become more than another chapter in her individual career. It could become a defining chapter in Filipino tennis for years to come. Remember where this journey started only 7 months ago. At the 2026 Australian Open, Eala stepped onto a Grand Slam main draw court for the first time. She won the opening set 6-0 against Alicia Parks, but then lost the next 2 sets as Parks responded with a barrage of 12 aces, eventually winning 0-6, 6-3, 6-2. Eala's Grand Slam debut ended with her heading back to the locker room rather than into a major press conference. Fast forward to Toronto, where she stood in front of reporters as the newly crowned first Filipina WTA singles champion and admitted that the previous 24 hours had felt crazy, explaining that her mind kept moving between preparing for the next match and wondering whether she had really just accomplished what she had done. There was no polished corporate statement in that moment. It was a young player still trying to understand the speed of her own rise. 7 months earlier, she had been beaten in Melbourne. Now she had just beaten the world number 4 and closed the WTA 500 final with a bagel. 7 months. That is the timeline. And that is why Cincinnati's reported scheduling decision feels so strange. They are not simply scheduling Alex Eala, as she is today. They appear to be scheduling an older version of her, the player who withdrew from their tournament last year with a shoulder issue. They are looking at a ranking that has not fully captured the demand curve surrounding her. They are promoting her as a trailblazer and then, reportedly, assigning her as though she were a footnote. 2,800 seats compared with more than 5,000 tickets. A Wednesday night session producing a Serena-level comparison. A world number for being bageled in a Monday final. And now a reported side court assignment that another tournament director has already demonstrated how to fix. Cincinnati may be about to learn what Filipino supporters have been saying for much longer than the rest of the tennis world has been willing to acknowledge. Rankings can be a lagging indicator. Alex Eala is not. So now here's a challenge for you. Put your prediction in the comments right now. If Cincinnati moves Eala to center court before her second-round match, will that be genuine recognition of what she's become, or simply damage control after realizing the original decision was wrong? And if they leave her on the same court, how far do you think she will go before the tournament is forced to reconsider? Put your prediction on record and timestamp it. Then come back next week and see who got it right. If you want your prediction recorded before the official order play is released, before Bob Moran and the Cincinnati scheduling team make their decision, and before the U.S. Open seedings respond to whatever happens in Ohio, this is a channel where those predictions belong. Subscribe, drop your Cincinnati bracket in the comments, and join the conversation. The fans who correctly predicted what would happen in Toronto are already waiting down there.